politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Welcome back. I'm Grace Marie Turner with the Galen Institute. It's nice to have you back with us. We're on the Steve Malzberg Show, and we are here today with Glenn Kessler, who is fact checker par excellence from the Washington Post. Welcome, Glenn.
Glad to be with you.
So your latest question was about some remarks that the president made at a Democratic fundraiser recently, saying that Republicans had filibustered about 500 pieces of legislation that would have helped the middle class. Tell us a little bit about what you found about that statement.
Well, there were a number of problems with it. One of which is that he appeared to be counting what are called cloture motions, and this is something that is actually filed by someone that wants to wrap up debate. It's not really what you would technically call a filibuster, right? But the Democrats have tried to use this as a proxy for filibuster, and believe me, it's incredibly complex, and you can get really deep in the weeds on the Senate rules, but even if you accepted that cloture motion was equal of a filibuster, which it isn't, there's no way you get to 500 pieces of legislation because that number of 500, which is something that Harry Reid likes to use a lot, includes many, many nominations. In fact, probably 2/3 of those are nominations, not having to do with legislation that would help the middle class. And then on top of that, Obama went all the way back to 2007 for some odd reason.
Before he was president.
Which meant he was including 2 years when he wasn't president, but he was actually senator. And so in 8 cases that I found, he was actually counting instances when he voted to not end debate.
And therefore was filibustering the very thing he's criticizing Republicans for filibustering,
right.
not really filibustering.
And the actual numbers, far from 500, Glenn, as you point out in your piece, is 113 successful filibusters, since 2007, again, including 2007, not 500, and that is quite a difference.
And so the president won, Glenn, for this remark. How many Pinocchios did you give him?
I gave him 4.
4 Pinocchios, which is the most we can get.
So
a whopper. Yeah.
So it is a whopper, and by your standards, to get 4, it really does have to be a whopper. And one would think that having been in the Senate, the president would know the difference between a cloture vote and a filibuster. But I guess one would have had to think that he would know that you couldn't keep your doctor or your insurance if you liked it as well.
Right. I have the year.
Well, I think this is a good example of when I think he borrowed some spin he got from Harry Reid, but didn't fully understand what he was saying,
it's hard to get away with that, as you say.
Anyway, but it's.
So speaking of Harry Reid, we actually have a film clip here of Harry Reid talking about the Koch brothers, who he seems to be obsessed about, and being one of the main causes of climate change. So we have a little bit of a sound clip here, and I'd like for you to talk about that.
The report that I'm referring to here concluded there are disastrous climate changes taking place on our Earth due to human activity. While the Koch brothers admit to not being experts on the matter, these billionaire oil tycoons are certainly experts contributing to climate change. That's what they do very well. They are one of the main causes of this. Not a cause, one of the main causes.
Now, Glenn, we have to, I think it's important also, and maybe, I don't think that this came into play when you decided on how many Pinocchios to give, but Harry Reid has been obsessed, one might fairly say, with the Koch brothers, taking to the floor of the Senate time and time again, and calling them, among other things, un-American, and blaming them for all kinds of things and accusing them of all kinds of things. So this was just another in a long line of attacks on the Koch brothers, which I've never seen a Senate Majority Leader attacking private citizens the way he has. But go ahead, address the matter at hand.
Yeah, he said one of the nation's biggest air and water polluters. So what did you find, Glenn?
Well, he said they were one of the main causes of climate change. And, I looked into the data. There was he cited a report, though he bungled it a fair
From the
amount.
Political Economy Research Institute at the University of Massachusetts, right?
Right, and they had Koch Industries. I believe it was at 17th place on there.
They had it at 27th place on the list.
27th.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have the column in front of me. So
for contributing 1/3 of 1% to overall the carbon emissions.
Right, and in fact, the U.S. is no longer the biggest contributor to
Yes.
yes,
you said it was
carbon.
6 1,000ths of in a global rating, so that's really hardly a major contributor.
Right. He called him one of the main causes, and I gave him, I think, what is it?
You gave him 3 Pinocchios, and I wonder why I didn't get 4 for that, because all of your data seemed to suggest that this was no way you could put this together to get to one of the main causes.
Well, there's sometimes a fine line between 3 and 4.
Right.
There has to, for me, 4 is when it's really untethered to any kind of reality. In this case, I made it 3 because the Koch Industries does in some measure contribute to the carbon emissions, and they are on a list. But if he'd framed it in a way where he said, if he didn't say they're one of the main causes of climate change, that was the thing, to highlight this one company, and then he also said as part of it that they did more than GE and so and so and so and so all together.
GE, Exxon, and one other.
Which wasn't the case at all. Those were bigger carbon polluters than.
Yeah.
Right, and of course I'll just add, for the record, I don't believe Obama or anybody when they say the science is settled. I think, open your window and look at the storms. That means there's man-made climate change. Meteorologists, as a matter of fact, a majority of meteorologists will tell you none of this is man-made, and the weather's been cyclical. And the New York Times, or should I say Time Magazine, Newsweek in the 70s said we're headed for the Ice Age, and the Earth hasn't warmed in 17 or 18 years. And Sandy wasn't even a hurricane. So, there's a lot of debate, I think, still out there. Very legitimate with scientists and climatologists and meteorologists who don't agree with this. But anyway, even if it were agreed science, I think you made a great point that Harry Reid was not telling the truth. But to me, that's nothing new. All right, let's talk about Benghazi, Glenn. And you linked a whole bunch of different statements, a whole bunch of great information, and talking about the validity of many of them. Pick out 1 or 2 that you want to concentrate on. I'd like to ask you about the one, I don't know if it's in there, and I guess it's subjective, when Hillary says, she's satisfied, everything has been answered, she has no questions left. I mean, that could be true in her own mind, whether or not there are questions out there. But talk about some of the other statements that have been made regarding Benghazi and how they rate.
Well, yes, what I did is I have done 14 different columns where I've looked at different claims and counterclaims regarding Benghazi, and I've thrown out Pinocchios to both sides. I think someone added it up; it was something like 25 Pinocchios in total. So, and I think in general, what I found is that there was rhetorical overreach by Republicans, and there was kind of over-the-top spin from the White House, and the two going back and forth there. If there are questions to be still answered, and there might still be, not everything has been looked at or subpoenaed, but I can certainly see from Clinton's perspective that she has felt that she has answered everything that she could answer. I mean, one thing that I think is important to remember is that the Secretary of State is at the top of a very large building where lots of things happen that the Secretary doesn't know much about. And you can blame their managerial style or the way the building is run, but not the decisions about the security that you're going to have in a diplomatic outpost. And frankly, it wasn't really a diplomatic outpost as much as it was a CIA facility, right, where the ambassador just happened to be visiting that day. Security for the people there, that's just generally that is just not going to rise to the Secretary of State level.
Well, then, Glenn, we got to wrap up. But just to be fair, then why were we there when even the Red Cross pulled out and every other embassy, quote unquote, pulled out? Why were we there? Were we there without security when Stevens had requested security? She could say, "I never saw it. It's a big building." Well, then maybe then there are problems, and she has to take responsibility because she was the Secretary of State.
But I think I actually she probably did take responsibility, but just to be clear,
we got 10 seconds.
Sorry. Stevens was visiting. He wasn't.
Nonetheless, they had asked for additional security.
To be continued. Glenn, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much. We look forward to talking to you again.
All right.
All right, very good. Glenn Kessler, ladies and gentlemen, the Washington Post. And it has been a thrill. Thank you for joining us, Grace Marie Turner. And we'll see you again very soon.
Thank you.
When we come back, of course, folks, it's Gimme 5 right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away.